Hey everyone, welcome to Badger Shenanigans, the podcast where we chat about all things gaming. I'm the Honey Badger, and I'm excited to start with a brand new episode full of recent gaming events. In today's episode, we're going to be diving into Redfall's Catastrophic release, how the state of the game shows management problems within the acquisition between Bethesda and Xbox, but also we're going to share some thoughts on what could have been done to prevent the situation, or what's the problem with the game. So whether you're tuning in while you're grinding experience on your favorite game or taking a break from your latest gaming session, I'm thrilled to have you with me. So, let's get started. So, Redfall. Yes! Redfall is the talk of the town currently on gaming, and it's not gonna stop until at least The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom comes in next week to save Xbox and Bethesda and Redfall from this terrible situation altogether. Now, we're gonna talk about the game, what's the problem with the game if you haven't played it yet. What in the world happened to Redfall? I mean, I think it didn't come as a surprise for many, because I'm not gonna say we knew it was gonna happen, right? We wanted the game to be good, we wanted the game to deliver. Unfortunately, there were some traces in the past that this game was not gonna come out correctly, right? It kept getting delayed. We couldn't find the core, the principles, or yes, there's a theme. It's vampires. We know that. But I think you know what I'm talking about, right? We didn't know exactly what this game was about. We only knew it was an open world. It had multiple characters. You could play co-op, and you were gonna kill vampires. That's it. But we didn't know much from that, right? Yeah, it just you have the ingredients. You want to make a good meal. But the preparation of this meal, some way, somehow, along the process, it got mixed up with other things, other problems, and wow, you have Redfall. If you haven't played Redfall, if you have Game Pass, try it out. See it for yourself, so nobody lies to you. Although you could have a good experience, because I've seen some people haven't experienced any single bug. You're blessed, my friend. I don't know what to sell to you. But I have play the game for a couple of hours because I couldn't keep going. That's the state of the game. It's just buggy, glitchy in all aspects of the game. I couldn't get through it. I tried playing it with friends because yes, the developer said Redfall could be played solo, but it kind of had this invitation to play it on co-op. So I played it in co-op, but it wasn't delightful at all. Like, none of my friends enjoy their experience with the game, unfortunately, right? I love open world games. I love diving into a new one every single time. And if I can play with someone else and it has a good experience, good immersion, perfect, all the better. However, this time it wasn't that. And it's got a couple of problems, not just because of the bugs because sometimes what I experienced the most was anytime you would get close to an object, it lost all textures, all details. It was just like, I feel like I was back in the 2000s when I was playing video games, right? Like, nothing had good detail. There was just, I'm not gonna say nothing, because there were some cool games out there, right? That had a really, really good look to them, that even now, they still look kind of good. But Redfall doesn't have any of that. And for a 2023 game that was supposed to come out in 2022, this is not acceptable. But it still has some pop-up issues. Like, for example, enemies will sometimes... Like, we will get to a place, there was no one, there's no enemy, we'll start looting the place, and then, pop! You have 4 vampires floating above you, and then there's this guy that just... He was, for some reason, like, patrolling, but we didn't see him at first. Like, that... Which is funny, right? At some point it got funny, because the things just kept happening. We didn't know what to do about that. Because I had a friend. We started playing. There's a bit of a few minutes of cinematic cutscenes. That's fine. A lot of games have it, right? Especially if you play Sony interactive games, there's going to be a lot of cutscenes. So that's not the problem. The problem is when you are actually starting to play after the cutscenes, you're not able to play. Like, you're supposed to be eliminating zombies and cults. Instead of being able to shoot at them, you couldn't. He had to stay behind us because he couldn't shoot at all. Like, at any point in the moment. He was getting frustrated, because you're kind of there for the enjoyment of the game, but you're not able to do any of that. So that happened with him. Then sometimes we'll lose our guns, like visually we couldn't see the guns and we couldn't shoot at them. And then the other part, I think the main part and the most important thing about this is, well, let's imagine the game doesn't have any bugs, any problems, right? On the coding, on the programming, I don't know. Could it be any good? I cannot tell you exactly that either. Yes, I think Arcane, instead of making it a open world environment, should have kept it just your basic run-of-the-mill linear game. Just take us through a path and help us discover what is happening on the island of Redfall. Help people that are being attacked by vampires. Because as an open world, it feels pretty empty, pretty hollowed. The game tries to sell you this environment of dangerous, of suspense, and at the beginning it gives you this cinematic where you feel the presence of the vampires, but after that it's completely gone. You only feel that when you're inside buildings, inside structures, but when you're on the open world, you completely lose that whole feeling, which I think if they had managed to kept it even within the open world, it would have been so much better. Like, I don't play horror games, scary games, I'm a scary cat, I don't play those, but even I couldn't feel the threat. The only time I felt it was when we had to go inside a house, inside a big structure. That's the only time I felt it, I felt like threat level as high as I could go, of course, because I'm a scary cat. But I still felt it, and the friends that play horror games, they didn't feel anything, not even a piece of it, The idea, the concept, it could have been good. So now, we're not gonna talk only about the state of Redfall. I think there's plenty of that stuff out there on YouTube. Everybody's talking about how bad it is, how terrible it is. Especially if people hate Xbox, this is like their field day. If they had told us, like they did, for example, we Grounded, a game by Obsidian, not the same studio, but a different approach they did on early access for a whole year. And now that game has so much content right now, right? It didn't come out in the best situation. There were a lot of things that were buggy, that were missing, but through feedback from the users and the creative work that the developers put up with the game as the time went on, like now that game is it's a whole experience, right? On open world. That is a good game. If you haven't played it, you still have Game Pass because you wanted to play Redfall, go to Grounded. Go and play Grounded right now. It's a good game. If Redfall had come out as early access, give the chance for the players to try it out. I mean, don't praise it as a $70 game, which is atrocious. Thank you, Game Pass, you exist, because I was able to play it before even putting my wallet in it. I would have been even angrier that I could have been. So now we start to talk about the consequences of the failure of this game, because this game was promoted by Xbox since 2021, I think. Since the release, not the release of the Series X and S, because back then it was Halo Infinite, and that's another failure on its own that we're not going to talk about today. It was around 2021, at the beginning of 2022, when we started hearing rumors about Redfall. And because it's an Arcane game, a lot of people were excited about it, right? Arcane has had a good history record of games. The problem is, as I said in the beginning, is we never knew exactly what the game was about. So this failure of the game, because of it, Phil Spencer, the man, the myth, the legend, the Xbox boss, spoke in an interview about this issue. And not only spoke about it, but also issued an apology to the fans. Because yes, it is not something you want to put out there for your players to try it out. You don't want them to play this kind of game. You want them to have fun, to enjoy themselves, and of course, have a reason to stay subscribed to Game Pass, for example. Or even, I'm not going to say to buy a console. You're not going to buy a console just because of Redfall. It's not that type of experience, right? But give an assurance to people that they are going to enjoy their games on the console, right? They're going to have a variety of games and then they're going to enjoy them. So the interview happened on Kinda Funny Games YouTube channel. It's an hour-long interview. If you want to go and watch it, I'm going to leave it on the description. Go ahead. So first off, is that maybe they didn't hit the creative aspect properly. And I mentioned about this before, about the whole world didn't feel as immersive, or it doesn't feel well developed or alive. It just is a world with vampires in it, and pretty much it. Like the true atmosphere that you get from the game only happens within specific sections of it, but not in the overall experience. It's an open world. You gotta make the whole thing have a theme and an atmosphere, having not a theme, but something going on within it, right? To make it stand out. And I do agree with him. Something isn't quite there. As I said before, this game could probably done a lot better if it was just a linear experience than if it was an open world. Now, some people might think, why not just delay the game again? And he did touch into a point about that. But he said that there's different aspects to consider before delaying a game. For example, if it's a production timeline issue, he said, then we could probably delay it because we just gotta work in more bugs or polish the game and whatnot. But if it's not about that, if it's about the creative aspect, then at some point you just gotta put it out there, You just gotta let people play it. And then he mentions how examples like Sea of Thieves or Grounded, how those games made those same things. Like I mentioned before, right? I think Redfall should have been an early access game, my friends. It would have done so much better. It wouldn't be getting the hate or the dislike it's getting right now. If it had come out as an early access game, people would be playing it and maybe giving the feedback to the developers and telling them, hey, you know what? Maybe change this aspect, or add this thing into this area, or make it that instead of just me getting to place or just fast traveling, make it that I have to go through certain areas. I don't know. I haven't really played that much because the game right now is not very playable. I'll give it a try later on when it's patched a little bit more. But for now, it just makes you wonder, should have Redfall been an early access game maybe? Yes, some people don't like the idea of early access games, but I think sometimes maybe it's needed, There is communities out there that when games come out on early access, they fully support the games because they believe, of course, if the developers are showing some interest and actual creative genius into the game, or a prospect or a potential in it, people will support the project, right? There are several different early access that I've seen have come out as a success. So again, should it have been an early access? I think so. Of course, coming out as an early access, the game shouldn't be $70. Probably $30, I don't know, $40 maybe. But a $70 game, and he does say that the price range at which was it released, right? They take full responsibility that it should have been a greater game, and that they're letting a lot of people down with the launch of this game. Of course, he did mention the developers Arcane Austin. They're gonna keep on working on the game, just as other studios have done with Sea of Thieves, Grounded, as I mentioned before. And I think one of the best parts about the interview he gave, he was also asked about what lessons did Xbox as a studio learn from this situation. And he did say that at least they think during the whole acquisition between Bethesda and Xbox, there were a lot of games that were already in development, as well as there were others that were still like in a conceptual, creative aspect. They weren't anything. They were just concept art or ideas up in the air. Like, they're not even conceived yet. But Redfall wasn't one of those. Redfall was already in full development time, right? And he does say when that acquisition happened, he thinks they should have engaged more with the development team, be more part of the production, because he says that as they acquired the whole studio, they didn't go into details with the developers. Because the game already had a creative process ahead of them, right? They came in and I guess the idea of the game already had a shape, I guess. Like we could call it that. And they didn't go in there and be like, you know what? Change it completely. This is not what we want. But he does say, like, he's not trying to wash his hands out of this disaster, but he does at least agree that they could have told or showed these new studios that are being acquired that they have a standard. They want to have their games at a certain level of quality expectation and whatnot. Fancy words, you know. And now, finally, the last piece that I will talk about from the interview, and that kind of touches some things that I find very interesting, because some people are like, it's just this game is bad because it's not like Arcane Studios. It's not like Dishonor. And Phil Spencer mentioned a little bit about that one that I agree with him 100%. He does mention that sometimes people might be like that, that are saying, like, why don't you force the studio to keep doing what they know to do fine, that they're excelling at it? And he says that sometimes, they have teams, but they're not going to go in and push the teams to working on a specific creative aspirations. They want to let them do whatever they want to do, right? Because if you have a team working on something that they don't even want to work on, then you're going to have problems like you have with other developer studios. We've seen them happen before. So they don't want to do that. They don't want to force teams to do whatever they want to do, right? Because they're like, if it doesn't need fixing, why are you fixing it? Type of mentality. But they want to let them think of new things. For example, he mentioned Obsidian doing Grounded, right? Obsidian is working on multiple things. I mean, that studio is doing well by itself, right? But they're doing other things, right? They did Grounded. Now, they also did Pentiment, if you didn't know about this game. It's a very niche game, but it's a good game. Then you also have Tango, who normally does horror games. And now this year, they came out with this Shadow Dropped game. Is that the correct term? Shadow Dropped? Because they didn't really announce it. Is that... I might be wrong. We're not gonna meddle in the details. But Tango Games, they came out with Hi-Fi Rush, which is an excellent game if you like musical timing type of games. If you enjoy those games, I 100% tell you go and play it right now, because it's good. It's entertaining. This is a very interesting topic, because as soon as Xbox has this missing hit with Redfall, of course you're gonna hear the critics go at it, right? The Xbox critics that I've seen comments all over the place. This is the end for Microsoft. This is not the end, my friends. This is not even the start of their possible greatness if they do, and if they play the cards right, of course. But this is not the end of it, because next month, if you guys didn't know about it, next month is the Xbox conference on June 11, 10 p.m. Pacific, or 12 p.m. Eastern. Knowing that information, what is going on with Xbox, it's a lot to take in for Arcane Studios. Right now, the only thing they have to do is, I will say, it's not an early access, but make it like an early access, right? Here for the feedback of the players. Listen to them. If you're having fun, that are actually staying with the game, supporting it even as it is right now, listen to them. They want to have this game living, continue happening. They want to enjoy something like this. Listen to them. I sound like the Zelda character. Listen. Very, very important thing, because this is another thing that I noticed during the playtime or the game session. Make the AI a little bit smarter. Not as easy as it is. Make it just a little bit of more of a challenge, I feel like this game could have done a bit better with just a tiny bit more stealth. Because yes, you are in an area ravaged by vampires. At some point, you want to clean all of it up, of course. But if you are completely surrounded by cults, by vampires, any type of enemies, you should feel that threat. Which in this game, it's not even there. I don't know what happened, but you could just run around and start shooting everything. Nothing really is gonna happen to you. So overall, make the experience better within the open world. You already made an open world game, make it better, make it more immersive. Make me feel the tension that is happening on this world. The tension of a person getting dropped on this island that I'm trying to exit because there are scary vampires on it. Scary, powerful vampires. Make me feel the dread of staying there. Give me the scares, you know? I am not, as I said, I am not a person to enjoy scary games, but make me feel scared. During the whole transition between areas, which makes, I guess it's part of the open world feeling, but make it better, you know? Not just, because immediately, that's one of the problems I feel when an open world is not good, is the developers immediately go to, hey, we have fast traveling. That only means one thing. This world is dead. There's nothing for you to explore or see within the world. So, fast travel. You're not gonna see or find anything new? Fast travel. That's some of the things I hope the game changes within the next couple of months of fixing the game. And I think Redfall could be a much more enjoyable experience. That's all for today's episode of Redfall's Demise. I hope you enjoyed the discussion on this topic and that you're feeling more informed about it. If you have any thoughts or opinions on today's episodes, I would love to hear from you. Feel free to drop a comment or get in touch with me through my social media channels. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time on Badger's Shenanigans.